being, the daughter of a white man, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a fat American. Your body is not supposed to look the same its entire life. I am almost 30. I've given birth 3 times. I have 2 beautiful children. My body's not supposed to look like it did when I was 16. That's not normal. That's not something I should expect of my body. Your body is meant to change.
If you've ever caught yourself criticizing your body in front of your kids or avoiding certain foods because you feel like, oh, you shouldn't eat that, or wondering if your own struggles are quietly becoming theirs, this episode is for you. Today, I am joined by an incredible young mom. Her name is Tara Cochran, and her viral video with her young daughter sparked a conversation that millions of women desperately needed. We talk about how our own relationship with food and our bodies becomes the blueprint our children follow. And it's true, whether we intend it or not. This conversation today isn't about blaming moms. It's about empowering them. Because when you change the way you see yourself, you change the way your children learn to see themselves too. Cannot wait for you to be a fly on this wall on this most inspiring, motivating, and educational conversation you do not want to miss. Well, hey there, diet disruptors. Today's episode is one that I am so excited about. We have I'll call her a viral mom with us, Tara Cochran, who has the Instagram channel, The Cochran Family, is an unbelievable mom who is sharing the concepts and the approaches to parenting that I wish I knew when my girls were younger. And Tara has an incredible following, an incredible Instagram, but most recently, one of her posts went viral, and we are going to talk about that. So Tara, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about you and your family and why you post what you post on your Instagram channel.
So I started creating content back in 2020. I was, a mom who had just freshly had a baby. We were living through scary times. And initially, it was just a way for us to share our lives with our family and friends. And I ended up growing from there and being able to realize how many people came from backgrounds like I did, who were learning how to raise kids in a different way. And it inspired other people to create change within their homes. And honestly, that has become a dream career for me because I get to take care of my kids and teach other people so many different ways that you can approach things. Because when you come from growing up in the way that I did, or even in similar ways, you think that that's how you have to be. And you don't. You can do things differently. And there wasn't really a playbook. I didn't see other creators that were posting the types of content that I was. And I was like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I want to. And here we are.
I love that. I mean, when I was raising my kids, they're 19 and 20 now, right? It was we didn't even have the social media. And I've always said social media can be really scary, but it can be used for good. And there's a dissenting voice. And when I was raising my kids, I had come off of an eating disorder. My value was 100% in what I looked like, weighing myself every single day. And if I didn't have a number that matched what I thought it should be, it could ruin me for the day. And when my kids started talking about calories at 5 and 6 years old, I knew I had to do something different because I knew innately that it was wrong for them to grow up with that mindset, but I didn't have a dissenting voice. Everything I grew up with were, the magazines and the commercials like Pinch an Inch and Special K and all of those things. So tell us a little bit about what you mean when you said how you were raised versus how you wanted to raise your kids.
Yeah, so the bulk of my channel is focused on cycle breaking parenting, and that comes in a variety of different ways. I've talked a lot about coming up from a situation of child abuse, but also just my background. So I'm an Asian American. My mom is an immigrant. She's actually born in India, but she's Chinese, and my dad is white. And in the culture that I grew up in, it was very, very very strict, but it was also very um, food focused. There are a lot of amazing things that I love about the culture, including the food, but just my family always really pushed, I get diet culture. You have fat Americans. That is what I learned. And being, the daughter of a white man, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a fat American. And that was something that I just grew up with the mindset of. We didn't keep junk food in our house. There was always a constant stigma of what you eat directly reflects the type of person that you are. And I think there are a lot of important things that you should teach your kids about food, but raising my kids, I didn't want them to have that type of mindset because when I left the home, the first thing I did was crash out on all those foods that I was not allowed to have. And then I developed a really unhealthy relationship with food that I had to break. And it's so interesting now looking back on photos of me from high school and then especially in college, where I was the skinniest I'd ever been. And I remember there's a specific picture of me. I took a picture in the mirror and I looked at that photo and thought I needed to lose weight. And I was probably like 50 or 60 pounds thinner than I am now. And my entire focus was you need to lose weight, you need to not eat this, you need to do all of these things. And as soon as I had a daughter, because she was my first child, I was like, oh, I don't want that for her at all. I don't want it for my son either, but for women especially, we live in a world that tells you to be skinny, to be small. And I want my daughter to know that the goal is to be healthy, to be strong, and not rail thin.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up in a culture where you look great was code for you look smaller. And I wrote about this in my book, From Corset to Crown, because I said that we were all kind of like given this metaphorical corset, one that like we didn't even know we were wearing, but we just had to keep cinching it tighter and tighter and tighter. It's because that's restriction and size and all of this deprivation was expected. It was the norm. And it was until I heard my kids mirror back to me the things that I said where I realized I can't breathe anymore in this corset and it's got to go. But there is no roadmap for how you actually raise kids to be in a anti-diet culture world without also then making them judgmental about certain things or not getting them healthy, right? Because there's this fine line about what health is. My daughter at 16 ended up buying herself a tiara because
I
she
love that.
decided that she was worthy of so much more. And it was a reminder to her, which is where From Corset to Crown comes in when it comes to my book. But it was at 16 when I realized, okay, the seeds that I had been planting for the last 10 years are starting to take shape. I'd love to know now, your daughter at 5.5 years old, what are some of the little, I call them like the little mile markers, like on a highway that tell you like I'm on the right path. What are some of the mile markers you're already seeing in your 5-year-old daughter that's telling you she's growing up different?
Well, she is just such an empathetic person in the best way. She is so incredibly kind and self-aware. And in regards to the video that we filmed is a perfect example. She knows the importance of listening to her body, and it's because we have worked on that her entire life. When she grows a lot, and she experiences like growing pains and the extra hunger, she'll wake up in the middle of the night and she'll come find me and say things like, Mom, my body is telling me that I need to eat. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get it. I'm not going to make you, it's 2 a.m, an elaborate meal, but we can get a peanut butter and jelly or a ham sandwich, something like that. I'm so glad you're listening to your body because growing up, if I woke up in the middle of the night hungry, I would feel an intense amount of guilt. Like that is the voice in my head would be like, you're being fat. You're not actually hungry, as if that was something to be ashamed about, or nobody would have made me a sandwich. And so it's little things like that that I know I'm doing something right with her. And especially too, like I talked about the culture that I grew up in, but just in general at holiday gatherings, I think a lot of people relate to my content because we all have whether it's a grandma or an aunt or somebody that will see somebody getting food and they'll make a comment about it, or they'll make a comment about your body. And my daughter knows we don't do that. We don't talk about the foods that people eat, the types of foods, how much they're eating, nothing. And for her to be 5.5 and already be able to tell me that, tell somebody else that, it's like I could cry
I
thinking about
know.
it.
It's like such a proud mom moment, right? Okay. But this is the thing that I always talk to women about, because they want to know, okay, how do I ensure that I'm raising my girls to have a positive self-image, to not be afraid of food, to have a good relationship with their body and food, to love who they are and who God made them to be. But I will always say that unless you can't transfer what you don't have, you can't teach somebody to believe what you don't believe yourself. So there had to be some work that you did to even recognize that what you've been taught is not what you want to teach your daughters, because I don't think I realized it until they said the word calories, right? And that was 6 years in by that point. So how did you get to the point where, and my guess is if you're like most women, this is a constant work in progress, right? You're always working on your mindsets and your thoughts, but you had to get to a certain place in order to be able to transfer some of that to her.
Yeah. So my body image, I mean, it's something that when you go through like histories of body dysmorphia and eating disorders, like that's something that is with you for life. Like it will always be with me in the back of my mind. But I've had to actively tell myself, like, that is delusion land over here. You know better. But for me, and I think it stemmed from realizing that your body is not supposed to look the same its entire life. I am almost 30. I've given birth 3 times. I have 2 beautiful children. My body's not supposed to look like it did when I was 16, a peak high school athlete. Like that's not normal. That's not something I should expect of my body. Your body's meant to change. And so when I had my daughter, I kind of realized that, especially in the postpartum, because initially, right after I had her, I was like, you got to drop the baby weight because people they're gonna ask you, like, or they're gonna make comments about it. And I kind of just looked at her. And when you have kids, at least for me, you see pieces of I saw all of the things about myself that I physically used to not like in my daughter. And how can I not like that? Because I think she's so beautiful. She's so perfect. And I'm like, half of her DNA is for me. And she looks just like me as a kid. And I'm like, wow, I really looked at her and saw little me. And I couldn't believe that I ever thought anything negative about that. And so as she started to grow, it was something that I just continued to work on and build and be like, you need to cut it out. You need to work better at talking about yourself in a positive way, not talking about other people, because she's going to pick that up. Kids are little sponges. They absorb everything.
I love that idea that you were looking at a little you. And if you could have told yourself back when you were 5 years old, the things that you've learned and the wisdom that you've gained over the past 30 years, it would be to love yourself, treat yourself with kindness, right? And so now you get that opportunity when your daughter is younger. I want to talk about those moms that don't have little kids like me, where you're looking back and be like, oh my gosh, I could have done differently. But before I do want to show your video, because I have watched this so many times. I've showed this to my kids. And my daughter, who's 20, was like, gosh, this is the kind of mom I want to be. So I love that you're inspiring so many people. And after we watch this, I'd love to talk a little bit more about it and how moms who have already raised their kids still have a voice, because I know that they do. So let's take a listen.
I have a very important talk, okay? I need you to put your listening ears on. Are you ready? Thanksgiving is coming up. We're going to go over to people's houses and have Thanksgiving dinner. I just wanted to remind you of a couple things, okay? Somebody tries to hug you, but you don't want to hug. What do you say?
Say, no thank you.
Mm-hmm. And what if they keep trying to hug you after you say no thank you?
Dad, please respect my body. I said no thank you.
Perfect. Absolutely come find me or daddy and we will back you up, okay? That goes both ways, right? If you went up to somebody and said, can I have a hug? And they said, oh, no thanks.
That's okay. If I want a hug, then I can hug you.
Yes, you can always come find me for a hug. Glad we're on the same page about that. Let's talk about Thanksgiving dinner. We're making our plate for Thanksgiving, important that we get what we're planning on eating.
right?
Don't want to be wasteful, so start small.
Do you have to finish all the food on your plate?
Well, if you get full, then you don't have to eat it if you get full. And
Because you do what?
you listen to your body.
Yes, ma'am. What if you finish your whole plate and you're still hungry?
Get more.
You saw somebody getting seconds or thirds, mind our own business.
Yes, because we don't comment on how much people eat.
Yeah, we don't comment on how much people eat. Do we talk about how people's bodies look?
No, because we learned that when I was coming to kindergarten.
Yeah, we did talk about that when you were going to kindergarten. If you can't change it in
5 minutes.
we don't comment on it.
I love everything when my PR team sent this to me and they were just like, what is your thought on this? And I got to be honest, like a lot of times when I get sent stuff, I have a lot of negative things to say because there's a lot out there that's really, I just watched one the other day of how a woman said she would never eat a cookie because just like she would never cheat on her husband, she would never cheat on herself and eat something so toxic. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? So I applaud you so much for having this type of stuff out there because again, it's the dissenting voice. But I will say this. So when I was a national educational consultant, I traveled all around the country and I would walk into teachers' classrooms. And I always knew when they were putting on some sort of performance for me to try to show that they were a different level of teacher than they were. And the kids were like, the kids aren't following suit if it isn't something innately within them. And when I saw this, I was like, this is not performative. This is not something she's doing for social media. This is who she is with her daughter because your daughter was responding in ways that were authentic to what she already knew. And so I knew that this is little tiny conversations, teachable moments as you are raising her that's clearly making a difference. So I guess I would just ask you to comment a little bit on that. I'm guessing I'm right with that assumption.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we have these conversations all the time about a variety of topics. It's not always just about body stuff, but she knows that if I'm saying to her, we're going to have a really important talk that she needs to lock in because it's something that I'm very serious and passionate about. And of course, we incorporate that type of teaching just into everyday life. But I like to just sit down and talk to her because I think, especially when it comes to parenting and parenting small kids, number one, people think that kids are not capable of understanding nearly as much as they actually are. And number two, I've noticed that people just don't want to sit down and actually talk or listen to their kids. And then they don't understand how they've gotten to where they are. And you have to talk to them. And so sitting in a quiet place, just one-on-one, her and I, being able to talk about those things and prepare her because I'm a type A person. I have to prepare for things. So when we're going to like a family event or really anywhere, I want to prepare her the best I can so that she knows that she has all the tools in her pocket going into situations. And it doesn't take long.
I think you made a really good point in that taking the time to talk to your kids. We live in such a society right now where everything is so fast moving, all these things on our to-do list, all this stuff. We kind of, I joke that we Google search or chat GPT our way through life where we can just go and never look down. When I was in college, I had to do research in the library. That's how I wrote all my papers. I can still remember the papers that I wrote when I was in college because I had a yellow legal pad and I had to write out all my stuff and go find books with a card catalog because I had to dig in. And I can remember the papers that I used to write. I can't remember what I chat GPT today, right? And I think we're chat GPTing and Google searching our way through parenting where it's just we're trying to get done all of the busy things that we have to do. And what you're doing is really modeling the purpose of parenting. It's not about getting them into all these sports and doing all these other things, but these conversations, what you say, being the loudest voice in the room matters.
And I think also going off of what you just said is we live in like a fast fashion like mindset where people want like boom, boom, boom. They think this is like gonna just you tell them it once and they're gonna click. But I think I read something somewhere that was like you have to tell kids things like 5 times before it actually like clicks in their mind. So it's important to sit down and talk to them, but continue on those conversations, which is why this series on my channel exists, is because you can see if people who have been following me for years now, these conversations really started when my daughter was 2, and they've been able to build. Initially, they were really basic baseline conversations, but now that she's 5.5 and she's understanding, we can build on that. And that's a beautiful thing because her view of the world now that she's in elementary school is building, and her view on her body is building. And so if you start with the foundation, it's easier to build.
And I would guess that it's not like you had this scripted curriculum in your head for the last 3 years. You've been building upon it yourself. And I remember raising my girls while I was trying to figure out my own disordered eating and all of the garbage that I had been trying to get rid of. And there were times where I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how I'm feeling right now, especially when they were 13 and 14. As they get older, to be able to have some of these conversations, or I struggle in some ways with this too. And I had my 20-year-old on my podcast recently, and it was just a very cool moment for her to actually, in a different forum than what we normally do, kind of repeat back to me a lot of the things that she has heard. But truly, the loudest voice matters. And I don't think you have to have it all right and perfect. Willing to have the conversations. Nobody's having those conversations. In fact, a few years ago, I was on the Today Show, and Jenna Bush Hager said that when she was like 8 years old, she wrote in her journal that she wanted to lose 6 pounds, but her mother had never, ever, ever talked to her about weight, right? She's like, my mom purposely didn't do that. And I'm like, see, that's the problem. We're not actually purposely having these conversations, even if they're not perfect, because the rest of the world is going to have them with them, whether or not you are doing it. And so do you want them to be the loudest voice?
Exactly.
Loudest voice. And you are doing such an amazing job with your voice.
Thank you. And it's important to because I have a range of people who follow me from littles like I have to like teenagers. And I think it's important to be really honest with your kids. My daughter doesn't know the extent of like my eating past because we haven't gotten there yet. But I think like shielding your kids from that reality like is doing more damage than it is. So one day, if she asks me or if she expresses any disinterest with the way that she's looking and feeling, I think it's important not to dismiss those feelings, but to say, you know what you're feeling is very common. Let's talk about how we can move past that and like get you to whatever goal you want in a healthy way.
Well, and when they realize, like one of the things my daughter said on our podcast is she said, I've realized you're a girl just like me. And I don't think I ever realized that with my mom. I was given a lot of rules, a lot of statements, and it didn't hit me until somewhat recently that my mom was a girl. It's a sort of a crazy, simple concept. But I think it was because like when Grace, I remember, said to me one day when she felt like her stomach was like hanging over her pants and it made her uncomfortable. It was a conversation we had together, a vulnerable one, around how I like, if she didn't know that I felt a certain way about my body, then how could I relate to her feeling that way? Right. So I love that. All right, let's talk to the moms that have raised their kids, right? And are feeling a little bit like, oh gosh, I wish I had kind of done this when they were little. And one of the things I always say, just like our bodies are so amazing and they're so resilient, and it's never too late to get ourselves into a path of truly becoming the healthiest version of ourselves. You really started not to overcome your own issues when you had your child at 25 years old. Me, I was in my 30s, right? And so obviously we're examples of how as adults we can change our thinking. How much more powerful would it have been if my mom was there with me, helping me through that, even in my 30s?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think about how much I don't want moms to feel like they missed an opportunity, because I think the opportunity is always there.
Yeah, I heard something, it was actually in a lyric to a song by Alex Warren and Jelly Roll, which is the entire song is called Bloodline, is about cycle breaking. And one of the lyrics is, as long as you have like today, like it's not too late to change it. Because say my kids were teenagers or in their 20s, they are probably going to have children. And they're also still girls or boy. A lot of my disordered eating happened in college in my late teens and early 20s. It's not too late to start having those conversations with your kids to change your mindset so you can be better for any future grandkids, or just an example for nieces, nephews, the future to come. It's not too late.
And, I think like your channel is a really good example. And again, there are people out there really sharing information that is helpful. And just showing my kids some of your content, it sparked another conversation in a different way. Right. And it allowed us to be able to talk about where they were right now, even though we looked at a video of you and your daughter who is 5 years old. So I just think what you're doing is just, I think it's mission driven in so many ways. And it is what my definition of changing your family tree is, because we often think I want to give my kids more than what I had. And we often think about it in terms of finances. And I keep saying, you can give your kids all sorts of money that you didn't have. That'll probably ruin them. What we really need is to be giving our kids the image, the self-image, the self-love, and the self-confidence that's inside of them. We just have to help them to be able to bring it out.
Absolutely. I always, for a really long time, wondered why I was born, because I was a oops that was kept, and I didn't experience the love and nurturing of like a family growing up, and I wondered like why why am I here? And then I had my kids, and I realized, I was here to change cycles. And then I developed my channel, and it really dawned on me why I was here, because I've been able to influence millions of people to change different ways that they look at parenting, the way that they look at education for kids. And it's just crazy. Like, I'm a small drop in a massive change. And I think that's really special.
Well, that's what a movement is. It isn't about necessarily one person. It's each one of us doing the thing and then causing a big wave altogether. So I'm honored to be on this journey with you. I'm so excited that social media brought me to be able to meet you and to understand and to learn from you, and for you to get your message, continue to get your message out there in the world. So, I mean, we're doing the work, and I love that you're 20 years younger than me and working to bring your generation up, and then your daughters, my daughters, will be doing the same kind of thing. And so little by little, we will get there. I am so excited. So tell everybody where they can follow you, learn more about you. You're on all sorts of different social media channels. They could take their pick, I think, right?
Yes, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and it's just the Cochran fam across all of them.
The Cochran fam. We'll link all of that into our show notes. Please go follow her, share, and be inspired by what she has figured out, but also is still learning. So what I love is that we're going to be able to watch your journey with your kids along the way, and how it changes and how it evolves and how you learn and grow for yourself as well. I know that I am in the best health of my life in my 50s. And it isn't that I have the same body as I did in my 20s. In fact, I very much the opposite. But when you know who you are and you love who you are, that's the definition of health. And I'm so excited that your kids are growing up with that and that you are there as well. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll be sure to stay in touch.
Yes, thank you.